Hi Susie, it's so great to have you here today. So for those who haven't experienced Susie's work before, this is Suzi Lula. She's a visionary leader, and she is a very good friend of mine and a colleague and my mentor. And I'm so thankful to the guidance she's given me around self-care. Susie is a spiritual psychologist. She's also the author of The Motherhood Evolution, one of my favorite books. Susie really challenges us to think differently around self-care, particularly for mothers. And I have welcomed Susie here today so that she can talk to you all around self-care. So, Susie, are we able to start with talking about the importance of self-care in our daily lives, particularly for parents of children with extra needs?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be supporting you and this work and just assisting moms to know that it's not only okay, but it's essential to take care of ourselves, and that by taking care of ourselves, we have so much more to give to our children, and specifically as you're speaking about parents or mothers of special needs children, so that it's even more important that we as mothers have that full overflowing tank. So to answer your question, self-care, I think most moms that I speak to and work with, most moms agree when you hear on a plane, every time we hear on a plane, put your own oxygen mask on first. So I think we all intellectually agree, oh, that's such a great idea. Put my own oxygen mask on first. We agree intellectually, and certainly if an emergency, a plane is really going down, we understand if I don't have oxygen, I can't, assist my child. But there's something that has happened with culture and a great divide where implementing this in our daily life is concerned. It sounds like a great idea. And so what I'm here to do, and you are to convince mothers that we can move from a great idea to actually having this be a way of life so that you are thriving as a mom. You're not exhausted, overwhelmed, and all of the things that go with motherhood,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you talk a lot about this in your book, The Motherhood Evolution. And also something else you cover beautifully is the emotional messenger system. And I wonder if we can tap into that as well a little bit today in a way to find your way to your own self-care as a mother.
Exactly correct. So a couple of things. First of all, we can probably all agree that we were raised as women to do everything for everyone else first, right? So we place ourselves last on the list. We think that it's selfish. We've been taught that it's selfish to take care of ourselves first. And then especially we become mothers, and then you stack on mothers of a special need child, and it becomes even more seemingly selfish. Well, I can't possibly take care of myself first. It seems selfish. But I want to express that it seems selfish only because we have been inundated by culture. We have been conditioned. Generations of women have been taught not to take good care of ourselves. And it's going to take the first few of us to recognize that this is erroneous. It isn't effective. It just isn't accurate, and it doesn't need to be. So first of all, we have to agree that, at least in theory, it actually isn't selfish. It isn't selfish to thrive. It isn't selfish to shine. It's the greatest modeling that we can give our children, especially young girls, especially young girls, so that we can break this generational cycle that says we are to martyr ourselves, feel guilty when we take care of ourselves, shrink back, put ourselves last. We don't have the bandwidth, and especially if you are the mom of a special needs child, you need, more bandwidth than the mom next door. You need bandwidth. You need your cup to be full and overflowing. And so where the emotional messenger system comes in is I've developed a system over working with women over 20 years, whereby I have come to recognize that our emotions, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel frustrated, when we don't like the tone with which we're speaking to our children, we're yelling at them, we're bossing them around, we get angry, we get impatient, we get frustrated. All of these emotions, we are also taught by culture, put those on the back burner. Don't let anyone see those emotions. They are shameful. They aren't to be, you don't tell the mom next door, I just yelled at my child 10 minutes ago. These emotions have messages for us. They're loud, they're intense, because we haven't been listening to them when they were quiet. And inside of ourselves, this couples with self-care, because inside of ourselves, our authentic self knows that the healthiest thing we can do in our lifetime is take care of ourselves. The healthiest thing we can do for our children is to take care of ourselves, because then when we begin to listen to the messages that this anger and this frustration, this overwhelm is speaking to us, when you begin to ask yourself, what is this saying to me? Typically, you will hear something in the neighborhood that you're really angry at yourself. You're really angry at yourself for buying into culture's message, for not taking good care of yourself, for being frazzled, for not having enough patience. And so that's why I say this emotional messenger system and self-care are sisters, One assists the other, and you begin to prove out to yourself that when you do start taking care of yourself, you come back into the tasks of motherhood. I always say the tasks of your motherhood journey are not going to change. If you have a special needs child, those tasks of taking care of your child is going to stay the same. But the you that you bring to those tasks can be dramatically different. And it just takes some courage to begin to take care of yourself and prove out to yourself, oh, I took care of myself. I came to those same tasks with more patience, with more graciousness, with more levity, with more lightness, with more joy, with more pep in my step, with less in my step,
Yeah, and it is just that first step off the ledge into self-care is the preventative measure, is the key to making sure, like you're saying, that those emotions are acknowledged and heard and worked through.
Yes.
Prior to that explosion or that reaction. Yes. And so how do we put in place daily these little self-care practices, or what does that mean for those who haven't experienced self-care before, didn't have it role modeled to them? I did a recent little story webinar over a few different videos around self-care practices. But for those who haven't seen this sort of work before, what does it really mean, and how would they be able to add that self-care into their daily lives?
Great question. That's the question, right? So I'm going to answer it in two different ways. One, I'm going to speak to the emotional messenger system again, because part of the emotional messenger system, many of us come to our motherhood journey with unconscious, unmet needs. We are not aware that we have needs inside of us that did, or maybe we're aware, but certainly being a mom triggers it and ignites that there are needs inside of us that did not get addressed when we ourselves were children. And so we come into the motherhood journey with these unmet needs and we don't realize it. And a lot of the big emotions that get triggered with us as mothers have to do with these unmet emotional needs. So part of self-care is about learning that as a woman, as a mother, it's okay to have needs, because that's another thing that culture teaches us, that we don't really have needs. We're the person that does everything for everyone else, and we somehow miraculously float through our lives without having any needs. And if we do bump up against one, we hurriedly, just push it to the back burner, right? So the first thing is learning that these needs are crucial. They are emotional needs, and we all have the need to feel seen and valuable and that we matter. And many go through our journey of motherhood feeling like we're insignificant and we don't matter as much as everyone around us. So this is one thing I'll speak to. And then the other part is the journey of self-care on the spiritual level, the physical level, the mental level. I say a lot of times, the moms that come to me, when we meet our children, that's the most profound time of our life. I mean, fathers and mothers, usually that's a generalization, but typically this is the time that we feel the most spiritually connected, or however you want to language that. It might not occur to you spiritually, but there's a profound, undeniable love and connection that's beyond, and quickly we get back into the tasks of taking care of our child because they need us 24/7. And so we can so easily become disconnected from that profound, our own spirit, really. So I say, when you're embarking upon a self-care practice, you want to start very tiny, very small, so small that it isn't burdensome. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go take a 3-hour hike today, and then tomorrow I'm going to, get a massage. And it's not like that. You want to begin to ask your heart, ask your spirit, ask your soul, ask your higher self, ask your exhausted self, just begin to communicate with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that my spirit needs today? And it could be something as simple as having flowers. I usually try to have flowers around me because they speak to me. It could be something as simple as having flowers, lighting a candle, being very conscious of choosing specific music that speaks to you. And I'm speaking about the simple tasks. Every time I walk by those flowers, I make sure to look at them. It's really the simple, it's connecting with what feeds you. The flowers might not feed someone else. That's fine. You find the thing that really feeds you. I used to, when my son would draw, my son's 16 now, but when he was little and he would paint and draw, that would be my time for self-care. I would give myself permission not to fold laundry, not to start on dinner, not to vacuum. And that would be my time that I gave myself permission. And I would sit next to him and I would just paint. And I'm not even an artist. There was just something about beautiful colors on a page, that for me, it just made my afternoon. So I'm talking about these simple things that aren't burdensome. And what will happen is that you will, if you piece them together, they will become a way of life for you. And you will find maybe the 10 minutes after I was drawing, maybe when I did go to make dinner, I felt differently when I made dinner. And maybe when I went to make dinner, I would say, oh, I'm going to put on some music while I make dinner. One thing builds off of another, whereby the day before I was just, oh, what are we going to have for dinner? I didn't get to the market. You know, it changes your consciousness, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And what would you say to a mother who is feeling a little bit disconnected and resentful of the fact that she has a special needs child and that this is the way of life for her?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Great question, because I think for all, well, I won't say all of us moms, for most of us moms, again, generalization, every mom I've spoken to, myself included, my son has ADD. So on the spectrum, perhaps he isn't as far on the spectrum as many other, but you know, I'm in the neighborhood. But even parents without special needs children, we all feel that sometimes, oh my gosh, you know, I feel I'm an island, I'm disconnected, this is my life. It does feel burdensome. So I think first and foremost, again, going back to this emotional messenger system that I've developed, we need to find an outlet and a container for our emotions. We need to recognize that it is not only normal, but it is healthy to allow those feelings out. When you look at a young child, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, they're born with a very healthy connection to their emotions. We are all born with a healthy connection to our emotions. We're just taught different. We're conditioned away from that healthy. So you take a child in a market and they want something and you say no to them, and they have a full on, full out tantrum right there in the middle of the aisle of the market, right? And that in its own way is very healthy. They are connected to what they need. And if you play your cards right and you can stay somewhat relaxed, in a nanosecond, they will look the other way and go, oh, look, they have the feeling, they express the feeling, and the feeling doesn't stay. The feeling moves on. And the less we get all involved in it, and that is what our emotions are meant to do. So of course, if you are a mom of a special needs child, of course you are going to feel angry, frustrated, resentful, overwhelmed, wanting to pull your hair out, alone, wanting to leave, wanting somebody else to do it for you, with you. Of course. And the more you can make friends with those emotions, the less they will weigh you down on a day-to-day basis, the more they will pass through. It's a cloudy day, it's a sunny day. It was a cloudy day. And then also give yourself permission, either by journaling, calling a friend, calling Kylie, working with someone. Doesn't have to be a professional, could be a girlfriend, but working with someone who can be a container for you, who can really listen, so that you can, because typically underneath those big feelings are those unmet needs. When you have big feelings, I can assure you, underneath that, you have unmet needs. All of us do. And so then it becomes the process of learning what your needs are and learning how to fulfill them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Suzi. If anybody would like to know more about you and about your work, how would they find you?
Just need to know how to spell my name. So you can go to my website, Suzi Lula, and it's SUZI LULA, all one word, .com. And you can download a free chapter of my book. You can see many, many free videos and resources that I have. I do have some online classes. One is called the Emotional Messenger System. So it assist you to really dive deeper. And I could be your coach. You could think of it that way, because it's a self-study course on how to navigate these emotions. And then I have another course, I have many, but this other course just comes to mind to share, called Learning the Language of Self-Compassion. And I believe, especially for mothers of special needs children, we can be so hard on ourselves, and learning a language of how to be compassionate with ourselves is very healing.
Very much so. Thank you. And I'm going to pop a link to that below so that people know how to find you. So Suzi has written a book called The Motherhood Evolution, and this is the copy here. She'll show us a beautiful.
It's so beautiful, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
I love the cover.
It's gorgeous, gorgeous. And so there'll be a link to Suzi's book as well. So thank you so much, Suzi, for your time today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I think the biggest thing that I would love to add is hope and encouragement to reach out to other mothers, reach out to Kylie to the best of your ability. I know that sometimes, we have so many tasks to do, but reach out so that you don't feel like an island and you don't feel that disconnected feeling. Reach out and stay connected. I'm here, Kylie's here, our girlfriend,
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Suzi.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We've loved having you here.